Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Practical Pet Chat. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for reaching out to us, practicalpetchat@gmail.com. A lot of you have been doing that. And this is one of those that's kind of an amalgam of things that we see and hear on a regular basis, not just from your emails, but also on the boards and all the rest of it. So, Lorin, I'm not a therapist. I'm not sure I'm going to play one today, but I am really reaching out to all of you out there to just say, have some grace for yourselves. Okay. Yes, your pets are a source of joy and love and reinforcement of what's great about this world. But there are still going to be those times that even they cause stress, frustration, and you can't get down on yourself because maybe you didn't feel or say something right, or you didn't jump up at 3 a.m. in the morning and, put your slippers on if you got slippers and take the pet out. It's okay. I just see this ramping up, Lorin, of people who are feeling an extra sense of pressure. And I mean, I've read it a couple times where I feel like I'm failing my pet because I'm so busy. I'm not doing what I should. I'm not a good pet parent. And I'm just like, wow, wow. I know we're our own, worst self critics in most cases, but this one just really seems to strike me. I know you see it too. What's your reaction to that
So
pressure,
I,
self pressure?
I've seen or heard a version of this at my store for literally decades, depending on the individual. The difference is that in today's world, the stress and the pressure is, I mean, it literally is a pressure cooker level, like we're all just gonna explode. And it comes from a lot of different directions. And we're making decisions more quickly and we're having to be pulled in multiple directions. It's really difficult. My thing with pet parents, I mean, where my store was, I had a huge customer base of medical personnel. I had a few hospitals near me and lots of customers that worked in varying fields in the hospitals. And they all shared that. They all shared it's long hours, there's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, and that's before you even get home. Um, and I've had people say, I work 12-hour shifts. I feel like it's so unfair to my pets. And that usually will start a conversation of if I don't already know about their pet. So, how'd you get your pet? Oh, I went to the shelter. Stop right there.
Yeah.
No matter what, the life you're giving them is a billion times better than it was. So there's that right there. Now, that doesn't necessarily assuage everyone's guilt. I have a very close friend of mine who used to be a customer too. And I've talked to her a few times in the last couple of weeks, and she's having a lot of guilt because she feels like she was meeting the needs she has all older dogs, and she was busy meeting the needs of the neediest dog,
Sure.
which which really limited her availability of paying attention to and addressing the needs of the other dogs in the house because they weren't as needy. So it wasn't until the culmination of that with the neediest dog and that dog is no longer here that she was able to turn around and see, oh my gosh, those dogs have aged. And where was I? I didn't spend the time I should have and the focus. And she has tremendous guilt over this. And you can only do what you can do. In the meantime, I know this woman. You all want to come back in your next lives as this woman's dogs, because they live in the nicest, cleanest, most fantastic household. with lots of, someone's always there. There's lots of love and lots of attention. Maybe not to the degree the neediest dog did, but it's all about degrees of relativity, right? Relative to what you have going on and how much you can give, that it's going to be this up and down type of situation. And if you don't cut yourself some slack and some grace and allow yourself to not be 100% of the time, then who's going to take care of you? And when you're not there and you're not well taken care of because you don't take care of yourself, then you're not going to be there for any of your animals. It's very complex. It's very we're humans and we suffer a lot of the pressure that we put on ourselves along with the external pressures. And we all have this criteria that we think we should meet. And when we don't, no one's harder on us than ourselves. So if you don't take a breath, if you don't allow yourself that space, then it'll be over.
Yeah.
There won't be anything for anybody.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I can relate to what you were just sharing. I have often said that Sugar's greatest gift to us was that she went quick because she knew I would spend every penny and then some to, you know, treat her and, try and keep her alive as long as possible. Selfish on my part. But her greatest gift to Zoe was that Zoe became and had a number of years where she was the dog that got that extra attention. It wasn't split anymore. And I knew Sugar was looking down, just going, yeah, you know, I love you, Zoe. And the whole family is giving you every bit of love. Um, and, it wasn't that we didn't love Zoe. It was that we love them the way they wanted to be loved. And I think that's the other part of it
It's that,
is
yeah.
I see people posting that, oh, I'm concerned because, you know, two of my dogs are in my lap and on top of me and want to be around me 24/7, but the other one just doesn't, seem to want to have that kind of interaction and that kind of, and it's like, and that's okay. That's okay. You know, and it's funny because that was Sugar. Sugar, uh, had her own way, and part of that was her breed. She was part Shiba, and so she was very much like, I want to love you, but I'm going to love you on my terms. And when she did, she loved deeply. And then it was like, okay, this is good. I'm going to go sit across the other side of the room. Zoe, move on in and be the 100-pound lap dog lab retriever that you are, and we're good to go. But I think where I'm seeing that additional difference, and it's why I brought it up today, and is that people are, as you pointed out, they've got, their jobs, their family, their bills, their, responsibilities in all these different ways. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I feel guilty because I'm not feeding my dog right. I'm not, grooming my cat right. I'm not doing all these things that I'm reading online and I should be doing those, but I don't have one more bit of me to give to doing these things, learning these things. I don't have the financials to do all of that I should be doing. Am I a bad pet parent? That's the question that always kills me. Is I'll get asked, and I love that you said stop. Just stop. If you're even thinking about that, it shows that you care,
Mhm.
which is all that any living being is asking. Just care enough to be there. And so let that go. Just let it go. You don't have a time machine, okay? If any of our listeners out there do have a time machine, please feel free to reach out to me because there's some things I'd love to change too. But since I don't think I'm going to get that email, practicalpetchat@gmail.com, I will say this: live in the present. That's all they're doing. That's all they're asking us to do. They're not sitting there with a scorecard going, oh, well, Fluffy or Fido down the street, they're getting this and they're getting that. They're just happy that you're home. They're happy to be with you. They don't have this keeping up with everybody else mentality that we as humans often, unfortunately, fall, in the trapping zone. And so for me, it's just trying to reach through today and just saying, do your best, whatever that best is, it's still exactly what your pet wants. Your pet is not sitting there going, well, sure, sometimes they want to go for the extra, few minutes of the walk, or they want to stop and sniff every single spot. And yeah, maybe you don't have the time for that. Maybe you do. Okay, but they're not mad that they got to go out on a walk. They're not mad that you were holding the little, cat toy up and they were playing with it for, a half hour and they wanted it for 45 minutes. They were happy to get the half hour. So it's just this. I think it's also a symptom, honestly, Lauren, of just where we are. I love you started off with the chaos and where we are overall. The way we have discussions, the way we go to such extremes of the only way to feed your pet, or the only way to care for this, or the only way to do that. There are many pathways to getting to the destinations that you want to be with your pets. Pick one and be okay with it. Have grace for yourself. Your pet certainly does. If you walk out the door and scream at the moon, your pet would stand right beside you, screaming at the moon with you. And you'd walk back in and they'd be like, great, what's next? They're not like, whoa, that person's losing it. So that's the part that guts me, is like, we're judging ourselves. It's not our pets. Our pets, they're not judging us.
Well, whatever scorecard you're keeping that you're trying to keep up with, it's yours. It's not your pet's, to your point.
Yeah.
And the what you said earlier about I'm not feeding my dog right. I'm not doing this right. I'm not doing that right. What's right? I mean, first of all, everybody's got an opinion, and as long as you are doing the best that you can, and giving as much of yourself as you can, I mean, your animals just want to, the best way I could put it is if you stayed home 24/7 with your animals, that would be ideal for them in their minds. None of us are ever going to do that. So, at what point in your own head do you think this much of me not being there is okay, but not this much? Because they're not doing that. They want every minute they can get, they want whatever it is. They don't care. You want to Netflix and chill, then they're gonna be sitting next to you chilling, watching Netflix. Would they rather be doing something with you? Yes, but they're next to you. They're happy, and they're not, like you said, holding a grudge. They're not keeping a little notebook. Well, so I'm really ticked off at mom. So I'm going to be sure, I know some of you will think that this actually happens. I'm going to be sure that when she's not looking, I steal her shoe
Yes.
and chew it up. That isn't the case, and that's not why dogs chew up things anyway. Um, so it's a self-imposed thing. Um, it's worrisome because I think if we put too much pressure on ourselves, then what's the alternative to that? We don't have an animal. I
Yeah.
can't think of anything worse for you and the animals. That means somebody dies in a shelter. That
Yeah.
means somebody doesn't have a home. That means somebody lives on the street. And I mean, there's your perfect example of not having any expectations. Look at the homeless people who have dogs and how
Yeah.
much their dogs love them, and they have nothing. So it's your own self-imposed um, torture. And we all do it. I had 12 dogs at one time. And I look back on that and I think, oh gosh, what was I thinking? And I handled it the best that we could. Everybody in the house handled it the best that we could. And we did great. The unfortunate part is they get older. And when you have that many dogs, they all seem to get older right around the same time. So it does become a who has the most needs that need to be addressed first. Conversely, I had of that little 12 dog pack that also had a cat. I had Dogs who are like, don't talk to me, don't pay attention to me. I don't want to stick out in the group. Don't do that. So their time would have to be one-on-one. To your point of love them the way that they want to be loved. That's the great thing about animals. They'll tell you how they want to be loved.
Yeah.
They'll set the criteria. They don't want to be smooched on. They don't want to be hugged. They don't want to be held. That there's nothing wrong with that. They're 3 seats down enjoying you
Yeah.
and they're very happy. So you don't have to force yourself on them. I would like to see people just take a breath, stop, stop with measuring yourself up to all the perfect people out there who do everything right. I'm not sure who those people are, but they must be out there because too many people are comparing themselves to them and worrying about what your bowl of food looks like or what outfits I don't know. I don't know what your
Yeah.
measurements are individually, but stop it. The only person that you have to please is lives in your house. Those are the people who live in your house. That's it.
Yeah, and I love that. That's such a great example, by the way, of the folks that are living on the street that have pets. That love that is it. That's legit. And I've worked with a couple charities who have done things with that, and they'll talk about the importance of that. So when you get to the heart of it, that's what they have is just those two beings. And that is, the beauty of the purity of the relationship. It's not about anything else other than I care for you, you care for me. And at the end, it's just that simple. It really is that simple. Do you care for the pet that you have? And if you do, you're meeting the most important criteria. All the other things are an elevation of that care. But no one other than yourself is judging you and saying, "Oh, I've got to get there." And that's the part that I agree with you. I would love to see us de-escalate. I mean, how many posts and all that I get sent so many different, pitches from different PR folks and
Mhm.
other podcasters and social media and all the rest of it. It's like this is the best way. This is the only way. This is now there are many ways. This is the right way. That's the one that always kills me. I almost want to have that person on so I can say, really, this is the right way. So everything else is the wrong way because there are many right ways to do so many different things that I think that's the problem is we've gotten to this headline world and it's now filtering into, oh my gosh, did I get so and so? Everybody is different. And I love you brought up something else too of the sitting 3 seats over. I made this comment to a person and we were having a similar conversation. I said, what's really interesting? When I'm sitting there, I would love to have Bella in my lap. I love that dog so much. I just want to snuggle and everything. But she will often sit to the side, sometimes right beside me, put her head on my lap. I want the whole snuggle. Well, there are also plenty of times where she'll go, if I'm watching TV or we're watching TV as a family, and she'll lay down right in front at the base where the TV is, up, eye level, all that. She'll lay there. And it's so funny because her TV is watching us.
Right.
Her joy, and Sugar used to do that a ton. Zoe, not so much. So many of the other dogs I've had throughout my lifetime. Everybody's got a different personality. I love that you called that out. And how many times not to get too ridiculous, but we've got bells. So not my dog Belle, but we've got bells. So if Bella wants to go outside, she taps a bell. If Bella needs to, she's got a bell by her food and all the rest of that. So she'll communicate with us quite well. And she does this downward dog stretch to tell me, yes, that's what I want. So I can talk to her. Um, there are plenty of times where she wants to go outside. I know a specific pattern. If I'm watching the Bears, she's like, I love you, Dad, but watching the Bears game with you, not as much fun these days. So she'll hit the door and she's outside for the Bears game. If they're having a good game, which is very rare, she might come in and sit down on the couch and high five me. And we used to do those things. She doesn't want to do that anymore. Things change over time as well
Right.
with our pets. As they get older, there are certain things. Sometimes they just want to go out and enjoy the sun. and there are certain things we can't do with them. I'm not going to go and chew on the grass outside. That's just not me. I love you, Belle. Have at it. So there are so many things that our pets do need from us. There are those basics. If you're doing the basics, and the most basic is caring, the most basic is making sure they have something to eat. Hopefully, it's as healthy as it can be, but do your best. That's it. And then water. And then everything else, again, is an elevation, So but it is that I think it's just another permeation of what's going on in the world where I'm just seeing people are being harder on themselves than they have been. And there's no reason for that. There's just no reason. Your pet is I love that you said I'm gonna take the shoe. That's not happening because you did something. So
Right.
and if it is, it's because you've trained them that's a fun way to play and get your attention. Um, there are certain things that I will see Bella and Sugar and Zoe and all the rest they've done throughout time to just get my attention. But most of the time, I think if you look at your pets, you're gonna see that's the cue. They're looking. When are you ready to engage
Right.
and connect with them? Um, and I mean, all I do, it's so funny as we're having this conversation, I'm just thinking of the smiles throughout the years that I've gotten from each different pet. And I just knew those smiles just told me, I love you. And that's amazing, and that we have that same effect when we're looking at them the way that they remember us. So don't lose that. Don't lose that. There are
Yeah,
so
and take a
many.
breath. Take a
Yeah.
breath, people. It really there's no perfection out there.
Yeah.
There's nothing we're gonna fail, we're gonna fall. And you get back up and do what you can. And nothing in the world, no one in the world will forgive you more than your pet.
That is drop the mic moment there, Lauren. I love that. Hey, everybody out there, we share these because you're sending us your emails, practicalpetchat@gmail.com. What topics do you want to talk about? What stresses are you feeling? That's what this came about from today, hearing things, reading between the lines of your different emails. Reach out to us on all the different social media channels. Let us know what's going on in your pet world, and we'll talk about it here at Practical Pet Chat. Thanks for joining us on another great episode. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as, nor should it be construed as, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for your pets. Always seek the advice of a qualified veterinarian with any questions you may have regarding your pet's health or medical condition. Never disregard professional veterinary advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The hosts and the guests of this podcast are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared during these episodes. Any reliance on the information provided is solely at your own risk. Copyright 2025 Practical Pet Chat, all rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or reproduction of any content from this podcast, including but not limited to audio, scripts, and show notes, is prohibited without prior written consent. The opinions and views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Practical Pet Chat.